Hi, Playmore fans. It is the Beneral bringing you an in-depth draft analysis for our P4G Low-Tier season. I am very excited to get underway with this team, but I want to take some time to break it down and go, more in depth on why I picked these Pokemon, the uses of them for the entire team, as well as just in a low-tier scenario, because this is a different format than usual, so I want to provide more insight to that. If you haven't watched the entire draft analysis video, please just do that first and then come back here. And in general, I am hoping to upload quite a bit more in terms of just providing more in-depth content on Draft League and be more informative for all of those that really care about wanting to learn more in Draft League, maybe grow and become more competitive in it. I want to be able to help those people out. While we have some fans, who just like to watch the video with like John and Tyler's commentary and just treat it as a week-by-week battle and everything of the sort. So I hope to do more, whether that be a live team builder. I think I'm going to do a power rankings on all the drafts here shortly after this. And then maybe some some of the coolest builds that I've seen out of all the games. Maybe a game of the week review. Open ideas, so please let me know down in the comments what you're looking for. But this is my channel. I have a lot of old Draft League content on here if you want to look. Nothing from Generation 9 though, just be aware of that. The last video that I think I actually uploaded, I was Gen 8, and you can even see some of my low tiers from Gen 8. So I am comfortable in the low tier format. But alright, so you're here to see why I picked this beautiful roster of Pokemon and what we expect them to do. So, first pick overall, Krookodile. Y'all heard me talk about it plenty towards the end of last season when I picked it up as a free agent. But I love what Krookodile does in terms of it can do everything, as it can come every week. It has two great abilities, Intimidating Moxie, Anger Point, very situational, but Intimidating Moxie are great. Stealth Rocks on Krookodile are just so reliable. It was probably the #1 Stealth Rock setter on the entire board, and he's just so good. I can bring just bulky Intimidate with Rocks and Taunt. I can bring offensive Choice Scarf with Moxie. I can bring Scale Shot with Moxie. I can bring bulk up sets, cheese them with counter, Dragon Tail phasing. Knockoff spam is so useful. Krookodile is just so good at what it does. I was strongly debating Mienshao. John really wanted me to get Mienshao, and I understand why. Mienshao's great as a breaker and just regenerator pivot. Even if they have a really good fairy, you can just bring it every week because regen U-turn is just free. And it gets obviously knockoff to get rid of items. You can get your momentum back, whatever it is. So Mienshao's great. I understood that. I check off so many boxes with Krookodile, and that's kind of how I draft. Like, typically, I think it is good to get the #1 powerhouse if you are able to get them first overall. But I value Krookodile a whole lot more than that because I'm able to get the best ground type on the entire board, the best dark type, best knockoff user, and then a very reliable Stealth Rock setter. And those are just already so many of those check boxes that I wanted to mark off, because having the electric community and the psychic community is huge. More so the electric than the psychic. But Krookodile just does amazing work. I could talk about it all day long, and I'm being a little bit repetitive, but it's always important to me to have a really good ground type, which you've seen in my previous drafts with like a Garchomp, in the second round and everything of the sort. So big fan of Krook. And then we did have the first overall pick, which is why I went with it. And then I knew from there going on, I had to be very careful with my wheel picks. I know I had to maybe pick up some things a little bit early because it wasn't going to last forever. And that showed with my third pick, but I like to just talk about them back to back. So we'll just talk about Hatterene here, named after Boa Hancock, of course. And then we have Tentacruel Aboshi, which is the name of the jellyfish captain from the Jellyfish Pirates captain from the Red movie. That's all I could really think about it, because there's no really like jellyfish fishmen, which is surprising. But Boa, Hatterene, absolutely amazing. Magic Bounce is a goated ability. I already really deal with hazards nicely between Magic Bounce and Rapid Spin Tentacruel, which is great, and a reliable grounded poison that can absorb T-Spikes, which is huge. I think both of these pair with Krook very well. in terms of mainly Tentacruel. Tentacruel really helps, deals with those fairies for Krookodile, and those ice types and everything of the sort, the water, etc. It deals with a lot of the weaknesses that Krookodile has, and both strongly resist those fightings because fighting types are extremely strong in low tier. That's one thing I just need to get across immediately, is if you have a strong fighting type like me and Shao that I debated, you can really just do good every week with that specific Pokemon because they are typically the strongest physical breakers, which is what you really need to capitalize on low tier. At least in the previous gens, that's how I saw it, because you don't have the greatest defensive capabilities for most of these lower tier Pokemon. The really stally Pokemon are typically the higher tiers. But I mean, it's kind of surprising, man. The Pokemon that are in low tier this generation, it kind of blows my mind a little bit, but it just shows the power scaling in this generation. There's some of these Pokemon that I was like extremely surprised, and it's just like, wow, like Raikou and Suicune and all of those like in tier 1. It was just like, that's kind of crazy. And then we had the like kind of unnecessary bans in my opinion of just saying ban every Paradox. Like, I think Bonnet would have been alright. I think Screamtail, maybe not. Screamtail's extremely annoying, but is what it is. I think Ire Thorns would have been a great tier 1, for example, or tier 2. But yeah. Alright, so just moving back on, these are in tiers. So Hatterene was my first tier 2, and then Tentacruel was my first tier 3. Like I said, I wanted to make sure I can get one of those good ones pretty early, because it's going to be like another 26 picks until like my next 2. So I wanted to make sure I go ahead and secure just 2 Pokemon I thought were going to be absolutely great in support for Krookodile. And if I get really good support later on, there was like a few good breakers that I just knew were going to make it back. And I can make great use of them. So talking more about them individually, Hatterene is so good. This was on my recent championship team that I won before the recent SPL season, in a Natdex league. I had Hat. I don't really think it did any sweeping for me. I broke with it 1 week with Specs. I know that for a fact. And I brought a Calm Mind variant 1 week, and it didn't win all the way. It was going to, but I think it got crit. So, but this Pokemon has amazing potential with great stats. Its HP stats low, but it has really good defensive stats to where you just max out in your HP, and you get so much more out of it. Also, one thing that really benefits this Pokemon having a low HP stat is just how much it gets out of Draining Kiss. User recovers 75% of the damage dealt, so if I'm dealing with a Pokemon, I don't think Tentacruel is a high HP stat. 80. Like Krookodile, okay. If I were to hit a Pokemon like Krookodile, base 95 HP, significantly higher HP than Hatterene, I'm going to be doing a lot of damage, and then because of the amount of HP that I did in that amount of percent, I'm just getting significantly more back. So like defensive Calm Mind variants with Draining Kiss just are so good for Hatterene. And it can really sweep teams because you even get the coverage for steals. And Mystical Fire, obviously you get coverage for the poisons and your stab psychic type moves. So it really has great sweeping potential in that matter, but it's also just extremely good support. We have Baton Pass. We cannot Baton Pass stats, so I can't pass Calm Mind into like Tentacruel or some weird stuff. But I can Dry Pass and just still get momentum out of the turn, which is great. Healing Wish support into like maybe a Krookodile that I was using as like a Moxie breaker early on, and now I really want to sweep with it in the end game. I can do that. Dual screens and Light Screen and Reflect is great. Psychic Noise is obviously a new move to help limit the healing on their team, which is great. Nuzzle. Hatterene does get Thunder Wave, but one reason you run Nuzzle is you just don't miss. It's guaranteed to hit. You just get a little chip, and then you paralyze them always. This is also beneficial versus like opposing Magic Bounce Pokemon. So if I were to face an Espeon, because I believe that was drafted by Nexus, I can get a Nuzzle off versus the Espeon, but I wouldn't be able to get a Thunder Wave off of it because of opposing Magic Bounce. Actually, no, I would, because they would Magic Bounce my Thunder Wave, but then I Magic Bounce on them, and abilities only activate once. So, poor scenario. But if I wasn't a Magic Bounce Pokemon, there you go. But there's still other things. So, like, for example, you would actually be able to hit Nuzzle on a Goldango. Goldango's not allowed in low tier, don't worry. I'm just explaining the use of Nuzzle over Thunderwave for those who don't know. So, and then stored power when you have those like heavy Calm Mind sets. I can even be a Calm Mind Agility set. If they don't have a good Dark type, then I'm able to go like just a mono Psychic, and just have like Agility, Calm Mind, maybe with a Keyberry, to help me get that defensive boost as well, and really just sweep in that aspect. Trick, just to cripple some of their Pokemon, or if I just want a fourth move on like a Choice Spec set, because Choice Spec's Hatterene is very strong with that base 136 special. And then lastly, like Trick Room, because I am going to have potential Trick Room Pokemons, as we know. I'm just going to, once again, go through them one by one, then talk about the team synergy as a whole. So it is what it is. But Hatterene's great. I loved using it. It was the first time I used it previously on that championship team, and I'm looking forward to using it again. And it's a 4 times counter to those offensive fightings, to where they really have to rely on potentially their secondary stab, or just maybe hitting me with a slightly super effective poison jab if they have it, or an Iron Head. So. And then Tentacruel, I got this at the same time, like I said, to really help with those hazards. And Tentacruel is just a really good bulky water in general. It's not as expensive as like Milotic was. I already get that really solid grounded poison. I get Toxic Spikes as well. So now I have Stealth Rocks with Krookodile and Toxic Spikes with Tentacruel, which is huge. Another knockoff user, which is amazing. And then Momentum and Flip Turn. So I had to get 2 forms of Momentum in this, which is great. Because that is the only unfortunate thing at a Krookodile, is he just doesn't have a form of getting momentum. So I needed to, make sure I'm able to keep the pressure on by just being able to click moves if I expect them to switch, especially if I have those nice hazards on the field. But Flip Term is a buff for Tentacruel this gen, and that's why I really look forward to using it. We get good helpful moves in like Haze and Hex for like T-Spike spam. Rapid Spin is obviously huge. Reflect type can come in very handy. Typically, Reflect type is better on setup Pokemon. Like if Hatterene got access to Reflect type, that would actually be nutty. But maybe it could still come in handy for Tentacruel, so that way it can just stay in versus a lot of his team, not worry about it. Sludge Bomb versus Sludge Wave, it really just depends if I want the chance to poison or if I need more damage in that aspect. So that's just something to consider with what I'm looking for in each week. And then, obviously, just Swords Dance, which is great. You can run a physical Tentacruel with that nice base 70. It's only a little bit weaker than the base 80. So, like, physical Tentacruel is completely reasonable because, I mean, you still get access to Gunk Shot, Liquidation, etc. And Tentacruel does have a nice reliable speed to that at base 100. So, at base 192 already this early on is very helpful as well. So, that's something to consider. But Tentacruel is just a really good special defensive tank to be able to help support the team. Very rarely is it actually going to be offensive because those stats are pretty underwhelming. In some scenarios, I might have to run physically defensive just to make up for the lack of its natural Phys-Def bulk. And the Spadef really just benefits it in the long run. There are going to be a lot of scenarios where I make sure I have a lot of speed to make sure I always outspeed the opposing walls. That way I can get off a Rapid Spin or a Toxic that's 100% accurate because I am a Poison type, which is always good. And then the abilities are honestly pretty average but great all at the same time. Clear Body, helping make sure that none of my stats get lowered. So against opposing webs teams, if I were to face Sticky Web, I come in, I don't have to worry about the speed drop, even if I'm not heavy duty boots, which is great. I also block Parting Shot and things of that sort. Liquid Ooze is very huge for those Pokemon that want to steal my health. Freaking Ceruledge is in this low tier, which blows my mind. Or if Pokemon want to use Drain Punch or anything sort, Wink Wink week 1. And then Rain Dish, if I wanted to bring a Rain Dance set 1 week or something of the sort. I get a lot of extra healing with Tentacruel, which one might be fun and make a fun little set out of that. I think I get Aqua Ring as well. Yeah, I might bring a really funny, weird stall set. But one cool thing you can do with Tentacruel too is run a Soul Vest, which is its crazy special defense stat. And then you also get access to Mirror Coat down here for returning double the damage, because Mirror Coat is a special based attack, so it does work with a Soul Vest, which is very cool. I remember this is actually the second time I drafted Tentacruel, but it's been the first time since my very first draft league is when I used Tentacruel, and I liked that Soul Vest set a lot. I think I brought it maybe 3 times or something. But Tentacruel's great, man. I love the buffs that it's gotten over the generations, and I'm really excited to use it. So, and it provides great support for Krookodile, like I mentioned. All right, next round comes around, and I'm like, okay, I really could debate on getting like a good solid steal here, but I really think I want to just make sure I have the offense I can rely on. I have some just crazy Pokemon that I think are great value, and that was just 100% Superior and Blaziken here. I hate how they're going to rotate every time I click between them, but it is what it is. I'll probably just try and keep it on Blaziken. To be clear, Contrary is allowed on Superior. This was in Tier 2, because since it cannot Terra, only Tier 5 Pokemon can Terra. Please remember that. It's really, it just can't touch Steel types. So, like, I'm just relying on trying to break through with just Leaf Storm, and then maybe Dragon Pulse, maybe just normal Terra Blast. Obviously, I'm not changing my typing, so it just comes out as the normal base damage is base 80. But could still be useful against like opposing like fire types or something maybe. There are scenarios where I might run Overgrow because I mean I do get Coil with like Scale Shot and Bullet Seed. I really want to bring that one week. I hope I can make that work out one week because that's an absolute fire set. But in general, Superior's got great bulk and speed. It's known for the Contrary Sweeping, which is obviously huge. But the main thing is just bulk with Glare and Knockoff, and just being able to support Leech Seed be very annoying for the opponent, to where you can just paralyze just about anything with Glare, knock off items, maybe get off Leech Seeds and substitutes, and then you win the game with Leaf Storm later on because they forget that you had one move not shown, and of course it was the Contrary Sweeping Leaf Storm, and their Steel type, Poison type, Grass, whatever it might be as a resist is already too weak, and if they switch in, now the +2 takes them out after. So I'm really capitalizing as well on speed control. If you cannot tell, I really got pissed off by Thunder Wave in SPL last season. So I want to make the most out of my own control this week or this season. So obviously we have, you know, the Nuzzle Hatterene and now the Glare Superior. Two 100% accurate ways of paralyzing the opponent and just having full control of the battle, where hopefully they get screwed over and I get to get momentum out of it. That would be huge. This is our Vengeance era. So, love Superior. I have used it before in draft. It's obviously probably better on ladder for sure, I'd say, because there are ways to just, you know, prepare for a more encounter at some Pokemon and get access to Sap Sipper and things of the sort. But Superior is just great. I do wish it still got Defog, but unfortunately it does not. Neither does Blaziken anymore. But another thing is, speaking of Defog, if I switch in on a Defog user as I have the Contrary boost, I do get the Evasion boost, and that is totally legal because it is not me purposely trying to boost my Evasion. It is them trying to remove their hazards, and they messed up. So I might have a cheesy win like that one week. That'd be very hilarious. As long as I'm not coming in on a flying type that can really just bop me instead of going for a defog, then I might be cheeky with it and try going for that. Because we might need the evasion boost if it turns out the Superior is blind and wants to miss a 90% accurate Leaf Storm. So that's something else we got to be careful with. But that's just a great special breaker and like sweeper there with good support options. And then Blaziken, this was for some reason tier 4. I cannot tell you why, I just can't tell you why, because Blaziken I've used in low tier leagues before. Great, amazing. I used it last night specifically when it got U-turn and everything. So good. This Pokemon was easily should have been tier 3. I mean, the only thing that's obviously lacking for it is, I guess, base 80 speed kind of holds it back a bit, and its bulk isn't great. But I mean, it's a great like mixed breaker. Like, hello, this is huge. To be clear, speed boost is banned. I do not get access to speed boost, so I'm running Blaze every single week, no matter what, which is reasonable. Speed boost Blaziken would have been banned. We would have had no Blaziken whatsoever, and then that would have made me sad. We get Aura Sphere now with Blaziken. It gets knockoff. It's just such a good Pokemon. Just U-turn, pivoting, and breaking. I can be Swords Dance with Flame Charge. I can be an Agility set. I don't think I do get Bulk Up. I don't get Drain Punch. That's right. So I could run a Bulk Up set if I wanted a bulkier version of Blaziken, but since I don't get that reliable recovery coming back by like Drain Punch, It's a little bit weird. It also does get access to Upper Hand, which is obviously that new move that out-prioritizes priority moves, which is pretty sick. And Blaziken does get access to Vacuum Wave as well as a form of priority. Quick Attack is not stab, so it's whatever. But this thing's very good at being mixed. Like, I can be a full physical Blaziken, but then just, like, rock Overheat as my, like, fire type move to really help for, like, those physical walls that lack special defense. And just blow them back like that. So Blaziken's a amazing Pokemon. It's gonna really come through with breaking through the bulky teams and helping Superior or like Moxie Krookodile or even that Hatterene basically just clean up in the end game, which is huge. And it's once again a very reliable pivot to be paired alongside the Tentacruel and Hatterene. And then next round comes up. I know I want to get my Steel. I really wasn't expecting this Pokemon to come back, but it did in Earthworm, and I was very excited about this. This is a Pokemon I've been wanting to use since the beginning of Gen 9, and I haven't had the opportunity yet because everyone would take it always so early. I think it has great opportunity here in low tier. This was my second tier 4, and I was just very happy to get this as my Steel because there's very few Steels overall. In low tier, and in general, very few that I were interested in. So Earthworm was one of them. It does, first off, defensive stat is insane. It's one of those, like I just mentioned, though, where it has underwhelming special defense, to where you're really just relying on the physical side, and you have to be careful of those mixed attackers in a draft format. So, but what carries it is Earth Eater. Just being immune to ground type moves as a Steel type and only being weak to fire and fighting is huge. And it's just extremely helpful to where I have an amazing ground resist in Superior and a ground immunity in Earthworm. Absolutely fire. Every evasion type ability is banned because we don't believe in cheese here. So both Sandveil from Earthworm and Snowcloak from Frostlass is banned. But yes, Frostlass was my other tier 4 I got here. Unfortunately, Appleton was in tier 4. I really wanted to bring back the OG Bubby in the low tier, but just due to the tier constraints, I wasn't able to do so. If Appleton was in tier 5 with Terra, I legitimately would have gotten it first overall. Just for the memes, I want you guys to know I miss Appleton and I wanted to use him with Terra so badly, but they didn't give him the opportunity to Terra because he'd be too fat and just too much of a goat, because we know how OG Bubby is. Yeah, so Vegapunk, he brings us some very nice hazards. We got Stealth Rocks and Spikes with him, which is huge. Shed Tail is banned. I will not be using this move. This is not allowed. If I had Shed Tail with Superior, it would just be GG. But this does provide, you know, potential coil or like Iron Defense Body Press setup. It's pretty basic what Earthworm can do, but it is a good Steel type nonetheless. And I needed one. It provides double immunities and a poison immunity and obviously ground immunity. So I love that 100%. And then Frostlass is something I have also used in low tier quite a bit. I really love using it on the low tier ladders as like just fully offensive with like triple action and poltergeist, or just, you know, that reliable taunt Destiny Bond Spikes lead, which is great. So I had got 2 amazing spikers on this wheel pick, which is great. Reminder, we'll be running Curse Body every week. And this does provide me a nice base 110 speed tier, which is only a little bit slower than Superior. So it's not like great necessarily in terms of like speed gaps and everything of this sort. But it really just helps having really fast Pokemon in low tier and just being able to outspeed everything else that can't match the elite speed, because typically you'll always have those other things which are kind of weaker that have that elite speed, such as the Kilowattrel and the Electrodes. But Frostlass does pretty good. Only having 80s for the attacks and 70s across the form for defenses is obviously not the best, but what makes Frostlass so useful is one, it's ghost typing. Obviously, we get that normal and fighting immunity, so we are able to spin block as well with this, even though it's not bulky, is what it is. It's move pool. We get Destiny Bomb, we get Disable with Curse Body, which is funny memes. We get Ice Shard priority, which is great. And And then we have really strong Poltergeist and Triple Axles. Those are two amazingly strong stab moves, which we can be physical with that. And then we also get Freeze Dry for the bulky waters in case I want. Where's Freeze Dry? I thought you got Freeze Dry. Oh no, am I a moron? Oh, I'm a moron. Alright, we don't get Freeze Dry. We're hitting Poltergeist on those water types. This is your coach, everybody. But still, you're not really good. Nobody needs Freeze Dry. It's stupid anyways. We can be Light Clay, Screen Lead with Light Screen Reflect, along with those spikes, Taunt, more Thunder Wave for more speed control, Smiley Face, Trick for those annoying Pokemon, and then Will-O-Wisp just for extra status, because we can be Thunder Wave plus Will-O-Wisp with the Hex set if we want to be that, because we do get Hex, we just don't get Freeze Dry. And then, you know, just some other sort of shenanigans. Very unlikely I'd bring Aurora Veil, considering I'd have to bring Snowstorm, right? Snowscape with that when I can just bring both screens instead in the first place. But it also does get pretty cool tech and like Spite and Prison. Psych Up's pretty sick. Very situational though. I just love Frostlass. It brings great utility. So I'm very happy about those two picks. Frostlass was kind of up in the air just because, once again, I just didn't know what I wanted with that final tier 4. I really wanted Appletone. I wanted to consider getting Glastrier, the run back. Glastrier without Taro was kind of like a little bit concerning to me, though. Even though I do have that Trick Room support with Hatterene, I was like, that sounds pretty dope. If I got Slowking, if Slowking made it back to me in the second round, and I got Crook Slowking, I definitely would have gotten Glastrier. Just chilly reception with Trick Room would have been fire, just with the defense boosts and everything. But Frostlass is going to be great. I'm very excited to get those. These 3 tier 4s, clicking around too hard, are just so great. I love these 3 very much, and I'm excited to use them along with the rest. Now, this is the rest of the team. Here, I'll just put them up to where I was very curious about, what am I doing, you know, like, how am I going to round out this draft? There's very limited, like, tier 3s left, and I need to make sure I get stuff that's, like, still useful, meets, like, maybe some of the types I'm still looking for, some of the, like, things I'm trying to check off, and what Terra Captains do I want? Because some people are already getting Terras at this point. At least during the draft, like Altaria went pretty early, and Altaria is something I've loved in low tier and something I wanted, but I prioritized all those other Pokemon immediately first. I think Altaria even went before Earthworm and Frostlass, so I was really debating, you know, about some of my offensive Pokemon. Then I decided there's some like pretty good slow breakers that can Terra. If I were to get like good webs and maybe another Trick Room user, I have very good, like, above 100 base speed. And then if I get webs and have a Trick Room option, along with all of my, like, paralysis spam, I have insane speed control that my opponent's not going to know where to properly prep for every week, which just sounds awesome. So I wanted to give it a try, and that starts by drafting Galvantula. Galvantula is one of the few tier 3s that at least made sense for my team that was still on the board. The other route, if I didn't go Galvantula or P2, I was thinking Magnezone plus Mousehold, which would have been really funny. They're still on the board, so I might debate it in the future, but these Pokemon are great. They were better in previous gens, obviously, when Heavy Duty Boots wasn't around, so they avoid sticky webs for Galvantula, and then, you know, P2 used to have Teleport and Toxic and everything like that, which is definitely a lot better for it. But Galvantula's cool in the aspect of Compound Eye, so we get to run Thunder, which I think is 97% accurate after the Compound Eyes boost, which is great. Unnerve is very situational, but possible. Could really help versus all the Custap spam that some of these tryhards like to do. And then also just, you know, any like Wakan berries or anything of the sort. And then Swarm could be nice for like a very offensive bug spam Galvantula, but typically we're running Compound Eyes just so we can run that 120 base Thunder compared to a 90 based Thunderbolt. It's just a lot better at the end of the day. We might see just Focus Sash leads. We might see Heavy Duty Boots pivot for Galvantula. I don't like the Life Orb sets. The Life Orb sets are stupid. Life Orb is a bad item. I want to make that pointed out to everyone. It's very situational when you need to run Life Orb or something else. I'd rather run like Magnet or like Silver Powder on Galvantula if I'm trying to make use of its stabs and everything like that. But it does also get access to like Energy Ball and Giga Drain, which might be helpful on specific matchups. I can trap other Pokemon with Infestation, with is huge. Sucker Punch as priority can catch people off guard. Considering Galvantula's attack isn't the greatest, but they can at least pick up like a very offensive ghost, like maybe Mismagius, which typically has the great special defense in order to deal with Galvantula's coverage, which is pretty beneficial to deal with it that way, especially if it would be like a Choice Scarf Mismagius, for example, or like maybe a Choice Scarf Haunter, as both of those I know were drafted. Volt Switch provides us great momentum, and then Thunder Wave plus Sticky Web is just very good control. Once again, trying to keep that speed control together. I can even bring Electro Web if I'm feeling cheeky. It can miss, but just getting Chip along with the speed drop is pretty cool, especially if I'm really trying to set up the other Pokemon. So another cool thing is bringing like Focus Sash with Thief and things along those sorts. Gastro Acid for like suppressing potential Magic Bounce, even though I would get Magic Bounced back, so I'm like just being stupid. But you know, Galvantula is great. I'm trying to remember if I've used it once before. Typically, I'm against drafting it because I like other electric types, and you feel kind of forced, always bringing the webs, and then bringing weak to rocks is kind of annoying. So you feel like you're forced to be boots if you're not a Focus Sash lead and things along those sorts. So, I mean, typically I prefer like Raichu and things along those lines when I'm looking at like a speedy electric. But, I mean, I'm still excited to use it. I know it'll provide good opportunities for the team. And just the pressure of having Sticky Webs force them to bring that Rapid Spinner, that Defogger, and I can capitalize on that being guaranteed in their move slots every week because I have amazing hazards. I have every form of hazard, to be specific. I have the Sticky Web, I have the Spikes, I have T-Spikes, I have Stealth Rocks, so it goes a long way with this team. And Porygon2 is just an absolute tank. This is something to where even though we have those crazy tier 1s that have insane damage output, or maybe some are in tier 2 and things like that, P2, slap on that Eviolite, invest in the stat you need, and it's an absolute unit. Because let's just look at that. 85, 90, and 95 with the Eviolite is just vomit-inducing. This Pokemon has pissed off a lot of people throughout the years of it existing. You can even run Foul Play, so they can't even boost in front of you physically offensive-wise. And then you can just KO them that way. Also, Bolt Beam coverage, just goated, especially when you pair it with like Download and you get a special attack boost, or Analytic when you're guaranteed slower than the rest of their team, and then you get the extra the extra offensive boost because of that, especially if they switch out as well. Analytics still goes off, but Trace is such a good ability because it is any ability of whatever you're coming in versus you can copy it. I can get away with a lot of like Flash Fire or Water Absorb type immunities and really just capitalize on it that way. Or maybe I copy Sheer Force from a Pokemon, and then I have an offensive Sheer Force Porygon2 with like Ice Beam, Thunderbolt, and all that stuff, which is sick. I'm kind of surprised it doesn't get Flamethrower, in all honesty, especially since Porygon, is obviously a Gen 1 Pokemon, and then Porygon2 evolving in Gen 2. I just specified that for the common people that don't pay enough attention. But man, this thing's just great. It really was a lot better when it had Toxic at the very least. Teleport made it just so much better. If it had Toxic and Teleport too, no doubt in my mind they would have made this tier 2. So it is what it is. But it still has good utility. It can do its things. It just sucks that it doesn't have a form of momentum with it. And I'm kind of relying on getting off some like maybe just Tri-Attack spam, maybe a Thunder Wave of its own, getting off a Trick Room, and then pivoting into some of my slower Pokemon. We'll have to see. So, fortunately, some of the game can slow down with P2, which I know John is going to comment on quite a bit this season, but it is what it is. And then I decided to leave my tier 5s just for my final wheel. I'll leave the bubby of this season last. So we Got Avalugg. Originally, I actually drafted Hisuian Avalugg, and I went with normal Avalugg during the grace period. We do have 24 hours after the draft finishes, to where it's like, hey, you can make a free agent with whatever's on the board without it counting towards your amount of transactions. So I decided to get normal Avalugg over Hisuian Avalugg because I did get Rampardos. I didn't really feel like I needed to get like a slow offensive rock. But also, the more I thought about it, I really am going to benefit more as this Avalugg being more of the defensive aspect. And even though Hisuian Avalugg has a higher defense stat, I think at base 194 than normal Avalugg, I do get the slightly better special defense. And normal Avalugg has way less weaknesses than Hisuian Avalugg. Specifically to 4 times weaknesses. Hisuian Avalugg being the rock and ice, 4 times weak to steel and fighting. It's like, even though I plan on Terra typing, or terrestrializing, let's use the proper Pokemon grammar here, Ben, I still have to come in. And like, if I want to go hard into the Avalugg, I am very likely taking a lot more damage and risking like just a wider range of special type moves with Hisuian Avalugg than I am normal Avalugg. Because even though I have some pivots on the team and Galvantula, Blaziken, Flip Turn Tentacruel, and then Baton Pass Hatterene, it's not like I have 8 out of 11 or something like that I have for momentum. I only have a third of the team that have momentum options. So like I needed to keep that in mind, and realistically Avalugg is just kind of better for what I'm looking for. Even though like Strongjaw was cool, having an extra stealth rocker with that was cool with Hisuian Avalugg, the rock stab as well. Honestly, I thought normal Avalugg got stealth rocks. That was a poor realization afterwards when I looked at it after making the transaction, but it's fine. I wanted to stick with normal Avalugg anyways, so it is what it is. But we do get a second form of hazard removal. Now, we did go from rounds 2 and 3, the first wheel, to getting Magic Bounce and Rapid Spin, to then getting literally nothing else up until this point, so that's a little unfortunate. But getting Rapid Spin with Avalugg is great. We just have to be cautious of the good ghost types that we might face that can easily spin block versus both Tentacruel and Avalugg. Especially for Avalugg's case, where its main attacking move is Body Press for more than often the games, because Body Press with Iron Defense is just so good on a Pokemon like Avalugg. If you get rid of their special attackers or anything that can even be the slightest bit mixed, Avalugg can just completely wall the rest of their team, because it can Iron Defense up, have Recover, and just Body Press spam with like maybe Avalanche as its ice type stab and everything. And it's just so difficult for teams to break and kill. And that's just what you do with Avalugg. It's just very straightforward. It walls everything from a physical standpoint. And it lets you get away those hazards to where the rest of your team can do work. Very rarely am I going to say, yeah, let's use an offensive Avalugg this week. But it does have base 117 attack, so it is an option. For those who do not know, Choice Band does boost the damage output of Body Press, even though it uses your defense stat. To be very clear, Body Press is a physical based move, so in that scenario, Choice Band boosts it and Burn affects it. Just remember it like that. As long as it's physical, that's what happens. So very cool, very cool. Very happy with Body Press on Avalugg. It's one of the probably the biggest thing that made this thing relevant, because otherwise it was just always kind of mid. Avalugg, I think, is probably in the top 10 of the Terras in Tier 5, if not top 15. Like, it's kind of up there. I know it's like been seen on stall type teams and like OU and stuff and things along those lines, but Avalugg's dope, man. I'm pretty happy to get it. In terms of Terra types, so obviously we do have Ice because we need to have one mandatory stab, and then we have Fairy. This was something that was actually kind of up in the air. I wasn't sure if I was going to go with Fairy over like maybe Poison or Steel, but I opted to go with Fairy just because it's more helpful to have that, especially if I am going to face one of those heavy physically offensive fighting types like I mentioned, but I want to maybe use Hatterene more as an offensive option or setup option in that week. I can reliably have the two strong fighting resist and not let Hatterene take too much chip to where I can set up later on and try and win in that scenario. And then Water just pull physical defensive water is great. And then also then I do get Terra Blast help versus like fire types that might want to come in on Avalugg and, you know, try to threaten it out in that way. So Avalugg, very goated. And then we have Rampardos, dude. There were a few other Pokemon I was like strongly debating when it came to like the tier 5s and the Terras and everything. Like I really liked the Alolan Golem. Because the Alolan Golem just looked really cool to me, to be honest, with like, you know, sturdy heavy duty boots, which is great. Steel trapping for like Hatterene and Superior. And then like, even though it's kind of a waste of Terra Electric Galvanized Explosion is a funny thing, let me tell you. But you know what's even funnier? Terra Rock Choice Band Head Smash. That is all you guys need to know. This thing right here with max attack adamant can 2-hit KO max defensive Mudsdale after the stamina boost. You know how ridiculous that is? It's doing upwards of 60% to a max FizzDef resisted Mudsdale beforehand, and then still doing the 40% after to pick up the clean KO. Obviously, if it's leftovers, it's a roll, but, you know. I just found that as a funny calc, and I told my buddy Nate, who's in the league, who picked up Mudsdale, and he's like, bro, chill. You don't need to be telling me that. I think, when do I face him? I face Nate week 3? I think I face him week 3. So that's just funny there. But Rampardos is sick, man. I wish it still got access to Rock Polish. It did lose that, which really blows. Because obviously you can tell here, the thing that holds it back is its underperforming speed and its terrible defensive stats. To where even though it has nice HP, those defense just kill it, man. Because you just can't invest in it. You want to invest in attack and in speed to outspeed as much as you can. But if we bring that Trick Room option, I can be like a minus speed nature. And if they don't have something in the 30s that they're being like a counter Trick Room option, then I can really capitalize on it that way. Or I can be very speedy, and then I rely on Sticky Webs from Galvantula or like all that Thunder Wave shenanigans that I mentioned that I have on the team with Paralysis. So Mold Breaker is very nice in terms of like avoiding Levitate users and spamming Earthquake. That's a great benefit there. I can also ignore like Sturdy type users and things of that sort. But Sheer Force is just massive. Like I get great damage output with Sheer Force Rock Slide if I don't want to rely on Head Smash hitting, because Rock Slide is 90% accurate compared to 80% Head Smash. And then I'm also taking massive recoil from Head Smash as well. Head Smash still does more damage than Sheer Force boosted Rock Slide, but it's just something to consider, you know. And then also I get things like Fire Punch, Thunder Punch, and Iron Head. It can be pretty situational for some of those other things. But still a very strong option. Sheer Force is a great ability, and if I am using those moves with a secondary effect, that's when I can run Life Orb, and I don't take Life Orb damage due to Sheer Force. But for example, if I am that Life Orb and I still run Head Smash or maybe Earthquake, I will take Life Orb damage along with those two moves because they don't have a secondary type, a secondary effect that is being canceled out due to Sheer Force. It's interesting how that works, but I always love it. So one thing that we can do to boost our speed inside of Rampardos' move kit, if we run Mold Breaker instead of Sheer Force, we can run Trailblaze, which is pretty cool. A lot of things got access to it. You know, grass type flame charge basically, so 50 base damage, and then we get our speed boosted by 1 stage. Obviously we cannot run that with Sheer Force because the speed boost is a secondary effect. I would be very much a forehead if I ran that 1 week because I would not get my speed boost after. I would just be hitting them with a very weak grass type move. But one thing to help boost the grass type damage, I guess, of Trailblaze is grass is one of our terror typings. So we have rock, grass, and ground. Grass not only lets me resist the ground, grass, and water type moves that might be hitting Rampardos for super effective damage. I do also get a stab on my Trailblaze. And for those who do not know, moves under base 60 power get buffed up to 60 base power when you Terra. So Trailblaze becomes 60 instead of 50, and then I get the additional stab on top of it, basically making it a 90 base power move, which is pretty sick. And then I can get the speed boost and I can work from there. So that can be a great way of sweeping a team in the late game, because then I just click head smash a few times and deal with it that way. But, outside of the Trailblaze, I just get good resist with the grass typing, which is pretty helpful. And the reasoning behind ground is just stronger earthquake spam, especially when I run that mold breaker. And then if they only have a levitate user, they don't have like a flying type, I just spam this all day, every day. With the Earthquake, because no flying type wants to resist coming in on Rampardos. Even if they've become like neutral based off of like some other typing, like maybe say it's Hawlucha. No Hawlucha wants to switch into a Rampardos head smash, bro. They're getting bopped. It's just insane. This Pokemon has a legendary attack stat, dude. Like I think it's tied for 8th or 10th, like in the overall dex for attack. Yeah, look at it down here. In terms of Pokemon that are actually in the game, because Heracross is in, but Mega isn't. Deoxys is in the game, but it's not allowed. Okay, but if you legitimately want to count even the legendaries that are in the game, that's not Primal Groudon, not Mega Rayquaza. You only have Deoxys Attack and Kyurem Black. Rampardos is the 3rd highest attack stat in the game. That is absurd. And I guess you could say it's tied with like Calyrex Eyes, but whatever. I really hope I'm able to do work with this Pokemon with Terra. I think it's going to be so hilarious. And I'm making it Bubby because it's just, even though Bubby can't be a higher tier Pokemon and you see it more, you have more fun with it, and you want it to do better, I think it's just so much cooler ever since Appleton for Bubby to be that like mid to low tier Pokemon that is just able to catch people off guard, my opponents off guard, and pick up those kills, and just so much more fun to root for. Like I could make Bubby superior or like Blaziken or some shit like that, and it just wouldn't have been as cool. And unfortunately, I still have not drafted a frog outside of like Heatran, I guess. So I still need to do that eventually. I definitely wanted to do it here. Like I was considering Toxicroak at one point, but there was just so many better fighting types. Like I said, I wanted Appleton again. Not a frog, but a frog in our hearts. But the fun fact is, Rampardos is an ancient frog. I'm thinking about turning his name to like Angry Bubby, or like Angy Bubby, or Bald Bubby. Bald Bubby. He matches his coach, so that's great. But all right, so in terms of talking about team synergy, I think we have maybe one of the top 3 teams. I think definitely top 5. That's based off my bias. I know other coaches would probably disagree when you look at the rest of the teams. But just the versatility of the team, all of the speed control, the ability to be Trick Room versus the team behind webs, I think is just so huge. And people will over prep for that. And then maybe they forget, like, oh crap, I forgot to prep for, like a Max Coal Mine Hatterene, or I didn't prep for a bulk up scale shot Krookodile. Or I didn't prep well enough for a like fully offensive Frostlass because Triple Axle and Poltergeist are stupid strong, and now my team took way too much damage, and Superior is now cleaning me up because my Steel type took too much damage from Poltergeist and things like that. So I think the versatility of the team is huge. I love our hazards. I do wish I had another reliable Stealth Rock setter, because realistically Rampardos is not clicking Stealth Rocks. Earthworm can for sure, but it also gets spikes, so it might be just more beneficial to run Spike over Stealth Rock, because I just don't want to run Stealth Rock on Crook. I do have the Magic Bounce potential if they bring their own rocks. It's just dependent on what Pokemon has Stealth Rocks on their team, because obviously if it's a Steel type, very rarely am I going to be comfortable going into Hatterene on that. So that's just one thing to consider. But like Tentacruel, amazing Toxic Spikes user and Absorber. And just a reliable Toxic user as well. I think it goes a very long way. But who needs Toxic Spam when I got Para Spam? You guys literally have no idea like how much, as soon as I drafted Hatterene with Nuzzle, I'm like, I'm just gonna make people suffer after what happened to me last season. Like, I really just want to have full control of the battle, not let them click a move, bring in Rampardos, click a big head smash move, and watch them drop. So I'm very excited on how this team could potentially go. I think Krookodile provides great support for the team as the top tier of the team, considering it's not that crazy breaker, but still has the 117 base attack stat. Oh, he's cute. He's matching with Avalugg. To where he's able to still provide great damage output with stab knockoffs and earthquakes, which are always spammable versus teams. And then I just have really great knockoff in general. I have knockoff on Krookodile, Tentacruel, Superior. Don't ask why it's on Superior, but it gets it. Blaziken, and I think that's it, but it's just great. And then I get quite a few like switcheroo / Herc users, which can go a long way as well. One thing that kind of overlaps is like obviously Earthworm with Avalugg in terms of they have the very high defensive stat and the low special defense. But at least, you know, one's like a guaranteed steel type and the other can be a mix of 3 typings, which can go a long way. So that's kind of beneficial there. I will say, don't get too attached to Avalugg. I think I am likely making a transaction going into week 3 of a Pokemon that I really want. I mentioned in this video, so feel free to guess. Even though it was picked up, it was dropped. So, and I think it's just going to be more beneficial for the team. So just be on the lookout for that. But Avalugg's still cool. I mean, maybe it will change my mind in the next 2 weeks, but I looked over with my front office. Also, shout outs to everyone that joined my front office. Some of them were fans in the SPL server, and I just needed more help, and they've already been so helpful, as in terms of drafting and preparing for, well, actually, no, they didn't help me with the draft. That was kind of just me and some other guys. But in terms of helping me for week 1 already, they've already been a huge help. So I'm excited to click buttons with this team. That's like the main thing I'm looking forward to, but I also have really good bulk with this team, and I'm able to play comfortably with my balanced style that I like, or like pretty bulky offense. But I still have the opportunity of going super hyper offense, you know, like it could be a Sash lead, Frostlass or Slash lead Galvantula, get up web / spikes, and just like go from there, to where I can start pivoting with like an offensive Blaziken with like Choice Band or something, and then maybe get in Hat with like Choice Specs, or I get in Crook that's like Choice Scarf Moxie and clean up in late game, or it's like a very offensive Superior with Glare, and I'm running like sub Glare with lefties, and I can get up the Leaf Storm boost in the late game. Like, so much potential, dude. I'm very happy with this team. You know, there are a few things where maybe I would have liked one thing over another. I think I was only sniped. No, actually, I was sniped a few times, and they were all from Joey except for one, I think. One was Altaria, which was sniped by someone, by Gentleman Thomas's team, but he switched it out after a free agent, like, grace period thing. And then I got sniped by Joey, who got, what was the stuff I wanted that he picked up? Rabombi. I wanted Rabombi over Galvantula, even though I already had the fairy. Rabombi's just way better than Galvantula. Anyone that says otherwise is pure copium. What else was it? Like, I want to just pull up his draft, but at the same time I don't want to, because his draft scares me, because it's like really good. This is like half the Pokemon I wanted. Oh, Regieleki. I wanted Regieleki as my electric type in like tier 4 over like maybe Frostlass and stuff, because I just thought that'd be better, you know, as like Rapid Spin and everything, because Regieleki in tier 4 is nutty for low tier. I think that should have been tier 3. Yeah, just a few things like that, but I'm very, very happy with this team. I'm kind of rambling on, but please let me know down below what you guys think of the team, if my thought process adds up with you. I'll try to do a live team builder, and then like maybe go over with a few of my mocks and like show how I change the team over time as I prepare for a week, because I think that'd be very helpful. Once again, I'm trying to be a very useful resource for everyone that wants to get more into Draft League, or just more curious about how I approach like games every week, my thought process more in general, because we are more on the entertainment aspect of things when it comes to Draft League here at Playmore, and I love that. I think we put up some of the best content for Draft League. I just know some people are more curious about my thought process. They want to be a backseat commenter and everything of the sort, but they got to understand I'm better than them because I'm the GOAT. So Or if you want to just, give my thoughts on like a game of the week or a game you really just want me to review in general, I'm more than happy to do that. I love doing that and going over replays. Even though a lot of it's hindsight, it's just great for learning's sake and everything along those lines. So just please let me know what you guys are looking into. Please let me know what you think of the nicknames as well. Shout out to One Piece. For those who are reading the manga, you get that one. But yeah, I'm very excited. Let me know what you guys think. And I look forward to uploading a lot more videos and talking to you guys here. So please make sure to subscribe. But we'll also have a community post go up on the Play More channel whenever I opt to put something up for this season. So I will see you guys, I think, in a power rankings video for each of the drafts. So that will be up shortly. See you soon.